Hi, this is Vinita, and I will be working on the second part of this painting demonstration. If you've missed the first video, look on my website or look on my Facebook page and you should be able to see the first video in which I worked on that area. This is the reference photo that I will be working from, and I have a list of steps, and I'm getting down towards the end. Once I get these trees painted over here, I can take this tape off and start working on the foreground. So that's what I'm going to do right now, is work on these trees. When I'm about this far along in the painting, I need to consider every color I put in should probably already be there somewhere in the painting. You know, you want your colors to feel integrated. So I think that this color is going to work. And I can look at the reference photo for the shapes. I don't have to copy it exactly, but it is nice to think about the trees going above the mountain and then showing a bit of the mountain as well. So this shape is a pretty solid shape. There are no sky holes or anything like that down here. And as I get up higher where there's more of broken edges, I'll try to kind of use the side of my brush to get more irregular edges. And I just want the mountain to peek through a little tiny bit. That can get colored in. Now this color is pretty light in value, and I can add in, I can add in darker values before it starts to dry. And you can see that in the black and white photo where there are lighter areas of the tree and darker areas. And when I say tree, there's probably more than one there, but you get the idea. Okay. I'm just going to use this smaller brush to give me some more irregular edges, just because this brush wasn't quite doing that for me today. You ever have days when your brushes just don't behave themselves? They have a mind of their own. It's always easier to blame the brushes than it is to blame the person holding the brushes. But I have some allergies going on this time of year, so my voice is a little crackly at times. So that's going to be overlapping that. We'll see if I can get that effect going on. Now I'm kind of taking my time here. And so I'm spraying almost just the air above that section to keep moisture there while I mix up a darker color. And I'm thinking maybe a darker green might be nice. And I can almost just kind of drop this in there and see what happens. Okay, that could be enough, but I do want to add in, since I have a kind of a theme going of, I have some violet color in the mountain, I have some pink color in the barn, I have more of that color over here, so I want to include that color over there as well. Even though this is not really a color you might actually see, sometimes there is a lot more violet in green areas than what we initially think there would be. And besides that, I just like the color. So sometimes it's just a matter of personal color preference because, you know, you're the painter, so you should be able to work with colors that you like to work with and not feel so confined to just the local colors that you may see in the photo. Okay, so just adding that very small amount, I think will help tie it into the side of the painting. I just have to decide if my darks are dark enough, and I'm going to let that set for a few minutes while I move on. I can work on the shadow areas in the barn, cast shadows, probably my favorite part of painting anything architectural is noticing the cast shadows underneath, like that part right there. So it's always a challenge to get it a color that's gonna feel right and a value that's not going to be too dark or too light, because I don't want to have to go in and do this again. If I can get it right the first time, then I don't have to worry about it again. My goal here is to create a cast shadow color that still is transparent enough so that you can see the colors through it. This side of the barn is hidden by a pretty big tree. So I'm just gonna make it up for now. I really don't think I'll put that tree in. So I want this part to be a bit lighter because this is where I want the center of interest to be in the barn. And I need to add, without getting my hand in that paint, I need to add the shadow up here. And this section, all of it just tends to be a little lighter. Okay, that's good. This little shed back here is, I painted it darker because I didn't want it to draw too much attention to itself, but I can still paint in a cast shadow. Even though it's a darker building, it still has a cast shadow. And you can see that it's just a little guy right there. So I think that that's good enough. I may, in the final, the final little detail work, I may create things, give some highlights and shadows to some of the white areas. I don't really know. I don't like to do that kind of work until the painting is done and I've looked at it for a little while. Then I can see, like these white shapes, I could probably turn them into sheep, but I don't want to just jump into that and ruin what I have going on. So I do like to give myself some time before I work with these incidental white areas. Now I need to shift my focus back over to this section. It's getting to that damp stage, which is always a real fun stage to work with for foliage. And I'm kind of guessing here it's real distracting with that blue tape and not having the foreground, but I feel like I need to just add in a bit more dark. And I also feel like this little shape here is just a bit awkward. So I don't know. I don't know if that helped at all or if it really made any difference. I don't know. I might just need to go like that. We'll see. And just a little more dark. Almost like the cast shadows here. So I can just drop the paint in. That's a huge advantage to working on a damp area, is that dampness will kind of do the job for you. I think that shadow's a little dark there. Now I do have this white area of the barn roof that's right up against a white cloud, and I'm not really sure that I need to make a distinction, but I could show you how easy it is to make a separation if you wanted to do that. People are they get pretty concerned about keeping definite lines, but a line is really easy to indicate. So just by adding in a little tiny bit of color and then bringing that down and then just letting it blend out with the rest of that area, that just separates it from the cloud. Now there's a line there that wasn't there just a few seconds ago. So I think it's time for me to get rid of this blue tape and see if my experiment worked. I gotta keep an eye on that because it is kind of wet. All right, that's pretty much what I was hoping for. Just a bit of an irregular edge right on there. I wouldn't normally do this, but I really don't want to have to stop the video and edit another section of the video together. So I'm gonna just lightly get rid of some of that so that I can work on this foreground, because I've done the trees on the left, I've taken the tape off. I've done shadows on the barn, not quite detail work yet, but really all that's left is the foreground and some final detail work. This is way different than what I would normally do. A lot of times I paint the foreground when I paint the first initial wash of the sky, so it's kind of interesting to work this way. Now, color. I'm going to need a lot of it. And it's going to take me a while to figure out what kind of green I want to use. That's not bad, it's just way too dark. What's fun about a scene like this is that you could paint it all different seasons. You know, you could pretend that you're painting it in the spring, and then you're painting it in the fall and the late summer and the winter. I mean, you could do a scene like this over and over again and just change up the color of the foliage. So I'm going to try this. I think that'll be all right. And what I need to do is put it on in a real broad manner. Keep everything nice and damp. And then come back in, probably this brush would be good. And I want to bring this color up. Hopefully it's not going to leave a line. Getting a little bit of a line, so you'll see me going back and forth with the brush, which is not something I normally do, but if the paint that you've put down has a bit of a line, then sometimes you can coax that line to go away. Okay, gotta keep moving quickly. Oh, I just dropped. I dropped a bit of green right there. But that's okay. I think it'll just come right up. So I can tell that I really need to add some warmth to this, which is easy enough to do. I'm going back and forth right there because another little line started showing up. Okay, I think that's working. And I better just keep on going here. I'm going to elevate this a little more, just another roll of tape. I should have done that from the start. It would make this a lot easier. Okay, so now I feel like this is all working okay. Everything's looking okay up there. And I want to add in texture into this area. So to do that, I'm going to mix up thicker paint. And this is just one way to add texture. You can add texture a lot of different ways in watercolor. But if I mix up some thicker paint and have it be darker, maybe like that, I think. And if I can put that paint down, and I'm going to come in with a different color too. Again, thinking about that violet, pinky color that I have throughout the painting. I want to get some of that also in the foreground. And then take this more runnier paint and kind of pull it through that thicker paint. Okay, I think that's probably about enough. I can kind of babysit this as it's drying, and I can play up the damp areas by dropping in some color here and there where it's damp. I can also spatter it with paint. I won't do that right now because I don't have this part protected, but I can, really have some fun with it while it's drying to create a bit more texture. You can see in the reference photo there is a lot of texture going on down there. So that's going to take a little while to dry. I think that I most likely will leave that tree out. There's just a few minor adjustments that I will need to make. I would, again, like to turn these into sheep possibly, but I'm going to have to think about that and play around with some sketching and stuff to see, so that I don't make them look like, you know, like polar bears in the field or something like that. So I'll decide what to do with this these white shapes there. Probably play up the foreground in front of the barn a bit. And that should be about it. So I thank you guys for watching this demo. I will post a photo of the finished painting when I have it done. And if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to get in touch with me. Thanks for watching, guys.